Okay, so now we're starting the 9th episode of Secret Squirrels. We are in affiliation with Dr. Jerome Corsi, author, provocateur. He started up this website. Well, we helped him. We're all the people behind the scenes that are working on that website, trying to bring you some useful information and important services for building community, building up citizen journalism activities, and helping everybody find their voices in the new technology. My name is Brainstorm, and I'm the guy that talks in Doc's ear all the time, pushes people around apparently. But I'm ready for everybody to introduce themselves. So without further ado, April.
Hi, I'm April, and I'm kind of a person Friday, a girl Friday for Corsi Nation. That's all.
Well, yeah, she does writerly things. We're going to be probably covering a couple of those writerly things today. But we'll move on for now. We'll just let it be. And then, so next we got Army Wife.
Yes, I am part of the military support for Corsi Nation. And tomorrow, I believe we're going to be talking about the burn pits and how it's affecting our veterans and our active duty soldier members. So, tune in.
And so we got the Army Wife, and here we have Marine on hand. How about yourself?
Hi, I'm Bandit.
We're getting a little cutting out. Is that cutting out for other people? It's cutting out for me.
Yep. Cutting out for me, too.
Need some bandwidth issues there. So find some good reception if you can.
How about now?
Okay, give it a shot.
I'm Bandit, jarhead, truck driver, and all it. New to the team, and glad to be here.
All right, cool. So now we have CD, as in Dr. CD Camp.
Yeah, my handle online is Dr. CD Camp, and I've been aligned with the Corsi Nation movement now for a couple months, and was glad to come on board and hit the ground running and do a lot of things to help vet volunteers, link them up with champions of the different initiatives, enable them then to gather together and to mobilize, become effective quickly, and to make the whole mission of the Corsi Nation happen.
And next we have Jax.
My name is Jax Wild. I'm just the resident troublemaker and internet connoisseur.
And my favorite nerdy. Hey, nerdy. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and cut this music off and move over to our website. This is the Corsi Nation website. And I was thinking today that maybe we could start looking at some of the news that our news people, our news team, are putting together for us. Probably just started to do the stuff that's from today. And so the first one is this is Palin barred from McCain's funeral. Identity politics has now infiltrated even the honoring of the dead. According to Joel B. Pollock of Breitbart, McCain fundraiser Carla Udy confirmed to People that Palin had not been invited to Senator McCain's funeral. Sarah Palin, former governor of Alaska and former running mate of John McCain in the 2008 presidential campaign, now joins President Donald Trump on the list of those barred. Upon hearing of McCain's passing, Palin eulogized, "Today we lost an American original. Senator John McCain was a maverick and a fighter, never afraid to stand for his beliefs. John never took the easy path in life, and through sacrifice and suffering, he inspired others to serve something greater than self." Doesn't sound particularly bad to me. Why would she be banned from the funeral?
No, I think what happened was she was quite fair and respectful in her eulogy to him, but either McCain ahead of his death, that is, that he didn't want her there, or McCain's family decided to bar her from the funeral.
I heard some rumor that maybe he had blamed her for his loss.
Correct. He wanted to go with Joe Lieberman Democrat from Connecticut, Democrat, as his vice president, and he either thunk himself out of it or someone else did. And just like Hillary Clinton, to this day, not recognizing that she was the problem for her loss, Senator McCain blamed Sarah Palin that he should have chosen Lieberman, and he thinks that he would have won if Lieberman was on the ticket.
And despite the fact that that remark by McCain was very hurtful to Sarah Palin, she still seems to have enough largesse to, give a respectful eulogy.
There's
That
people that
impresses me.
forgive, and then there's people that don't, and you can figure out which one was which.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if Sarah Palin is being given a negative vote from a negative person, it probably ends up being a net positive. Isn't that how the multiplication tables work?
Yep.
Well, that's usually how it works.
So maybe Palin's a good cookie.
I've always been impressed with her and the way she presents herself. I really think that the media really gave her the shaft during the election. I would like to see her run again personally.
She reminds me very much of Trump in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
That she was trashed and her family was trashed just because the left didn't want her to succeed. And that what they're doing to Trump is times 10 what she went through. But just going through what she went through is way more than any politician should have to.
Oh, yeah. They really vilified her. And I think that was just... it was just really cheap. I think it was a foreshadowing of what we were going to see with Trump. And,
right. It wasn't just they went after her. They went after everyone she's ever known.
Exactly. And it's a sad comment.
So it looks like somebody in chat saying that Palin's a Trump supporter. That could be something itself that would be reason for her to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we're going to move on from Palin now. Move on to the next story. We have John Huber, part of the stall. Let's read through here quick. Multiple sources are now questioning the prosecutorial veracity of John Huber, U.S. attorney and Obama holdover. For example, Victoria Tenzing?
It's DeGenevive's wife.
Former assistant U.S. attorney in recent interview with Lou Dobbs on Fox Business described Huber's investigation as a pumpkin village. 9 months into the investigation, Huber, charged with the investigation of FISA abuse, has yet to interview or even contact Bruce and Nellie Orr, DOJ official. So Bruce is the official, right? And Nellie's his wife, and she's the one that working for the FISA court, and probably wrote the Steele dossier, right? Isn't that how it goes?
Mm-hmm.
So she was working for Fusion GPS,
right,
with Glenn Simpson,
and she's like a Russian language expert or something like that.
Correct.
So Tenzing pointed out that the DOJ has suspiciously called Huber's work an evaluation rather than an investigation, similar to the sleight of hand used in calling the Hillary Clinton email investigation a matter. Dobbs referred to another blunder of Just Sessions in appointing Huber to investigate FISA abuse and Uranium One. Tenzing and I'm going to read that again. Dobbs referred to another blunder of Just Sessions in appointing Huber. What that means. Okay, so Tenzing ended the interview describing the current U.S. justice system as topsy-turvy, investigating collusion that wasn't there and not investigating collusion that was clearly there. So
yeah, I think Dobbs. I saw that interview. Dobbs said that Jeff Sessions appointing Huber, it was just another one of his blunders. The fact that he was the one responsible for appointing Huber. It's not working out very well.
It was most likely not a blunder. It was a purposeful act in order to prevent any kind of action being taken.
Well, that's the big thing, in the talk behind the scenes, on the internet, dark places on the internet. We are the secret squirrels, so we kind of inhabit those time. So the idea here...
Sorry, go ahead, Brain.
The idea here with appointing Huber is that he's not a Washington insider. read, not deep state. So that's the
But he's also not anybody that brings anything to court. He just likes to investigate stuff.
So perhaps we'll see how it works out. I mean, if he is working,
well, I'm talking about his history.
Okay, so and to what extent? To what extent does history determine future or current acts? Is there does your own personal history dictate your own future behavior? And perhaps if we don't have any other measures by which to gauge a person's character, then we will try to anticipate that the future actions will be somewhat like their past actions. But
yeah, Tenzing seems to think that Huber is involved or allied or sways to the side of Comey and Sessions and Rosenstein. We'll see.
Well,
I think you're right.
I mean, and I don't. This is my. And since we're conservatives here, we have the right to our own opinions. We each have our own opinions in various matters. And I think as long as we keep a civilized atmosphere and respect each other's right to their own opinions, then we can talk about these things without hating each other over having a different opinion.
Yes.
Let's maybe learn from each other. Wouldn't that be a nice thing?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, Brain, that they're messing with language again. That this is not an investigation, according to the DOJ. This is an evaluation.
Right.
Tenzing used to work for she was a U.S. assistant attorney, and she said she never heard of evaluations. What they investigated, they didn't just evaluate. So
I don't know. I mean, what would a Marine have to say about evaluations?
Other than the fact that you never wanted to be on the wrong day. If they were in a bad mood and your evaluation came back bad, it followed you around. But it was one of those things that had to be done.
Well, the evaluations can affect your promotions and affect your work assignments, all sorts of things that your evaluations can do. And anybody that's been in the military knows that evals are quite significant, and they go on your permanent record.
Do you remember, Brain, when Loretta Lynch, supposedly told Comey, let's call this Clinton email thing a matter, to lessen its...
Right. Well, it's rhetorical strategy.
Yeah.
I was good at rhetoric myself.
Yeah. I don't know if it's rhetorical strategy or something that's in 1984. What do they call that? Newspeak?
Well, rhetoric, the art of persuasion. That is that's the definition of rhetoric. It's the art of persuasion. And if and by now you should all know that I'm a philosophy guy. I like philosophy, I like Western culture, the roots of Western culture. So Socrates was held at he was accused of being a sophist. And what did the sophists do that were so bad that they hated Socrates so much and they were blaming him for being a sophist? It's because the sophists are the ones that invented rhetoric. And rhetoric is the art of persuasion. And so these rich sophists would go around and they would be paid for their ability. They teach the rich kids, basically, how to win any argument. And so to be a sophist, to be accused of sophistry, means that you're just really good at arguing your side and you're not really pursuing the truth per se. And so to be a rhetorician, not necessarily bad, because you do want to persuade someone to change their minds if you're trying to argue for the truth. But if you're merely a sophist, that's the problem. If you're merely a sophist, that you don't really have the truth under your own belt, you're just trying to persuade people, get people.
You're a lawyer.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
can I just add something? I don't mean this to take it in too heady a direction, and then I
like heady
back
directions.
off a little bit. But, there have been some more contemporary definitions of rhetoric that I like better or I appreciate better. Okay, supposedly Aristotle and Socrates said rhetoric is the means of persuading. That, you think one way and you want to bring somebody over to your point of view. That's good. But this is interesting to me, and it has implications for civil discourse. there's a contemporary, or no, he's not. He's passed away. Kenneth Burke. I really admire his work. He's let's say a late 20th century rhetorician. And he said that rhetoric had more to do with identification with another's point of view. That rhetoric had more to do with identification than with persuasion. And
yeah, I would make the argument that that's more a matter of hermeneutics.
That whatever, it sounds good to me that even when I'm talking with you now, Brain, or anybody else, that I'm not trying to persuade you, but I'm trying to identify with where you're coming from. And hopefully you're trying to identify with where I'm coming from.
See, that sounds
and
rhetorical
we
in
can
itself.
find common ground. Yeah, kind of persuasive.
You're trying to persuade me about the definition of the art of persuasion is what it sounds
like. Yeah, I am. Okay, so...
Well, April, it's interesting that you say that because, you know, that's the way I learned a lot of skills when I was living in Japan, is because you have to always sit there and consider where the other person's coming from, no matter what you do, because Tokyo is such a big city, you're going to step on somebody else's shoes. And, you know, I think it's so important, and it's something that's sorely lacking in our society today is thinking that out and how our actions are affecting someone else, and but doing it without being a snowflake, you know, or just being selfish about it, you know, just doing it because you're trying to be a good, kind person. But most people have forgotten or have not learned that skill, and it's sad. So.
I like what you're saying, because you didn't charge into Tokyo saying, you guys don't do things the way I do. Let me sway you to my point of view.
Right. Well, my dad always taught me, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. You know, and I think that we've lost that.
Well,
another thing Burke said was a way of seeing, SEEING, a way of seeing is a way of not seeing. And that kind of that expression keeps me in line sometimes when I get a little too bullheaded.
You know, the reason I wanted to get more philosophical and historical and all other types of academic stuff, there's a couple of reasons actually. That on the one point is that they have you know, through this indoctrination, they have dumbed us all down. That's one part. We have to learn to think critically. We have to learn to think for ourselves. And we need to have the tools at our disposal so that we can think independently. And just so happens that language, these definitions, those are the tools of thought. That's how you learn to think. And if you don't have the right tools at your disposal, you will be hindered in your ability to form your own conclusions. Question the things that they're trying to shove down your throat. So we do need to have a little homework on this. Sorry to tell you. You know, it's like, yeah, but it can be fun too. Some of the stuff is extremely interesting. But another point on that is that the conservatives have, you know, especially the Trump supporters, have this reputation for being illiterate hicks. And us secret squirrels are here to tell you that is not the case.
No, I would have to agree with that. I think most of us here have had at least some college.
Well, yeah, it's not even about college as such.
But we've traveled the world too, and we've seen other things, and have been able to absorb it and use it to better our lives, rather than just we see it and oh, that's nice, we saw it from a tour bus, and you don't absorb it or use it to your benefit. You know what I'm saying? Sorry.
Yeah, I do. I think it's life experience too. What my father used to call the College of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah.
Well, I think Bandit would call it something like common sense.
There's so many people out there that don't have
a lost art.
It is a lost art. It truly is. There are so many, especially on the left. that have not a lick of common sense, and it's sad.
I look at things and they seem obvious to me. I mean, just blatantly obvious. And then I think to myself, how can all these other people
not figure that out or see it?
Exactly.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, common sense isn't so common. And so...
But it would be kind of like, tire, and you're the only one that realizes that it's a flat. Everybody else just kind of looks at it like, what is that?
All right, so I'm going to be switching the screen here. We're going to go to Spider. Spider is my little go-to news aggregator thing.
Army wife, did you say a flat, like a flat tire?
Some people just want to call it, what is that, ADAC or whatever? That's overseas. Sorry about that. That's Germany. They want to call somebody come fix it, and somebody with common sense just knows how to change flat.
I gotcha. I wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, see, when I was in the Navy, they had this little phrase to come back to, for everybody who's trying to be Mr. Smarty Pants or something like that. You just say to them, well, that's intuitively obvious to the most casual observer. You have to practice that phrase fast, so that you can say it quickly. Intuitively obvious to the most casual observer.
It almost seems like in hoity-toity academic circles, if you say it's just common sense, it's kind of like if it's not connected with identity politics, then we don't want to talk about it.
It's like speaking a foreign language to a lot of them, and I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it in academia. It's mind blowing.
So,
common sense has a bad rap.
It does.
Yeah, that's true, because in terms of what is, if you think about it in terms of like what's going to promote your own academic career, it's going to be a bit of an insult if you're saying something that should be common sense, because you're getting paid to do something that is a little bit beyond common sense, ideally. And just so happens that a lot of these people in academia are very, very clever folk that are clever enough to deceive themselves into almost anything. If they had a little bit of common sense, they'd probably be a lot better off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, if you some lies that you believe, you have to kind of be an academic to believe them, because they're just ridiculous.
Ridiculous. I imagine you got to have a lot of common sense to survive as a truck driver.
Oh, you have no idea.
I bet you have a lot of stories to tell.
I do. I could probably do a podcast on that alone. I see people out here doing things that defy any kind of sense whatsoever, common or otherwise, on a daily basis.
Would you say that that's gone up in the last, maybe the last 10 years or so? Or
Absolutely.
Do you think this is just something that's always been there and we're just not noticing it till now?
No. It's even with the truckers themselves.
Really?
The newer drivers that are out here. I started in '94. My dad's been doing it since I was born. I'm going to age myself here, 50 years. And I've been doing it for, going on 25 years, about half that now. And when I first got out here in '94, it was still a pretty good world to be in as far as helping each other out and common sense on the road and everything else.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're out here by yourself. It's not a team effort anymore. It's a lone wolf kind of thing, and it's you against everybody else.
Well, I have a question right quick for you, because this is something we were stationed overseas, and even more so when we came back to the States, it was more prevalent. And it was the cell phones that, because I'm old, I just, I came from a very, very strict work ethic, let's say that, back in the 60s. And whenever the cell phones really were, I think once they went to a touch screen, is whenever I noticed that many of the soldier spouses, just civilians, they pay attention to what was going on around them, and they were more worried about making sure their phone didn't fall in the toilet. We come back to the driving and texting, and it's horrid. And I can only imagine, you know, as a truck driver, all the horrendous things that that.
Well, I'm going to try to jump through some news stories here real quick. We're going to get through this because I also want to touch on a couple of other topics that were pertaining to what Dr. Corsi was talking about today with the school systems and stuff like that. So we can come back to this a little after we cover a couple of stories. And we got to do this McCain business. It's, I mean, not really anything terribly new. I mean, the kind of stuff we're all hearing. It's Biden salutes McCain, his brother. Biden, you know, I don't know if any of this matters. That the McCain story just won't die.
Oh, I know. It's worse than a vampire. You know, it just keeps coming up, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a 5-day funeral, isn't it? Or happening in 5 different places, or.
I'm going to look at the Fox here so that we get at least something semblance of the truth.
I'm just not sure why everybody thinks that he deserves this long, drawn out grieving process.
I truly believe that it's simply a matter of being anti-Trump. I truly believe that's what this is.
Yes.
You know,
it's all about doing something Trump wouldn't like or something that's against Trump. And I guess McCain thought he won an election.
I mean, this line right here, McCain died Saturday of brain cancer. I do not trust that line. Do not trust that he really did die of brain cancer. I don't believe it was brain cancer. I don't even know that he actually died, but certainly don't think it was brain cancer if he did die.
What do you think it was if he did?
I think it was an execution. I think he got tried for treason and found guilty and got rid of him.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what I think.
I'm thinking it's somewhere that line he said no more treatment, and then the next day he mysteriously died. Something's up.
Yeah, it's sketchy no matter what you know.
I have to agree with you, Army Wife. That is sketchy.
Yeah.
You know. Usually you've got a month or so after that, but
right. Or maybe they just paced out the news.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know that he ever really had brain cancer. I think that was a cover story. I think
exactly.
So I mean, I don't know that we're ever going to find out either. You know, this might be one of those pieces of information that remains state secret forever until we're all dead. You know.
Yeah.
But
there might be a wax museum figure in that casket. The wax museum has been busy.
Brain, outside of just general lack of belief in the media, what makes you think what you're
part of it's
saying?
Just because of the convenience of it all. You know, it's like McCain just happens to die when we're exposing the deep state, you know, and he's one of the worst guys of all of them. I mean, it's just too convenient that he would die of natural causes. It's just that in itself sounds too sketchy. I don't buy it. But also, I mean, you know, I do believe that there's military intelligence, and I think there's some, probably even some civilian contractors being employed behind the scenes that are taking care of business, and that stuff is not getting put on the TV or covered in any news.
You know what this kind of reminds me of? Do you remember that that health director that was in charge of the health records in Hawaii for Obama's birth certificate? Do you remember her? And she mysteriously died in a plane crash. And they had that video. They had that video on I watched the whole video and watched her floating around. There's no way she would have died from a heart attack doing that. I could see her doing it in the water.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of that sort of feeling that you get when you see
that's what it
Joan
reminds
Rivers
me of.
dying right after she mentions that Michelle Obama's a transvestite. Just a coincidence. Exactly. That's all it is. Yeah.
That's kind of a shocking coincidence. You know, I believe in one or two here and there, but not that many. Not that dumb.
I mean, all the stuff that's going on with the border too. I mean, he's a senator from Arizona. I mean, that's probably one of the major places where the human trafficking is coming through, and they got, not to mention all this stuff he's doing with the Steele dossier, shopping that around to
right.
And his foundation.
He's just too dirty for it to be. It's too convenient. It just doesn't. I just don't buy it. So anyway, okay, what's next?
You too, Army wife? You think so?
You there, Army wife?
Oh, I'm sorry, ma.
Yeah, I was thinking you think it sounds very suspicious too?
I think it sounds very suspicious. For one day you decide you're not going to have any more therapy, and then the next day you mysteriously die, and then now it's a closed casket. And no, I think something's up. This might be some kind of a CIA something, so that he's not.
Yeah, it might be Black Hats that killed him. Maybe the Black Hats were afraid that he was going to talk too much. Because he is a squealer. He's a songbird, so maybe they knew of that about him and just got rid of him to,
Yeah, several people have mysteriously died from heart attacks in the last year.
Oh gosh, over the last year, let's try the last 10 years.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But yeah.
So let's move on again. We're moving quickly today because
Clintons alone.
What's that?
Exactly.
Sorry, the Clintons alone have just about filled up a crematorium,
Oh, yeah.
Well, the next story is a former officer of Chicago, police officer, facing murder charge. He's petrified that he might go to prison for the rest of his life. Jason Van. The USA Today article up source on that. Yes, by using. I can't use that one. Video. Next. Fox News source. Assault charges still pending on for convicted ex-cop. Out of Dallas, the latest on a white former police officer convicted of murder in the on-duty death of an unarmed black teenager in Texas. So there's a timeline here that they're listing about different pending assault charges against a white former Dallas area police officer convicted of murder in the shooting of an unarmed black teenager. Roy Oliver was sentenced to 15 years in prison Wednesday after his conviction in the killing of 15-year-old Jordan Edwards Balch Springs. The jury acquitted Oliver on 2 charges of aggravated assault stemming from the shooting, but he faces 2 further aggravated assault charges tied to the same incident. Dallas County Prosecutor Michael Snipes said the County Attorney General's office will still needs to decide on assault charges related to an incident 2 weeks before the shooting. Oliver is accused of pointing a firearm and after being rear-ended. Dallas County Sheriff's Department says Oliver is in protective custody at the Dallas County Jail. Look at the next article on the same topic.
County?
What's that?
Dale County?
Bulk or something?
Oh, okay. Okay.
This was talking about, this is a Business Insider talking about body camera footage. Day after police officer Roy Oliver fatally shot 15-year-old Jordan Edwards. April 2017, the Balch Springs police said the car of unarmed teens leaving a party was moving aggressively towards officers when Oliver fired into it. The next day, after the chief saw the video, he walked back the statement and acknowledged that the car was moving away from police. Oliver was quickly fired and charged with murder. During his 8-day trial, which held closing arguments Monday, the footage from the cameras clipped to the chests of Oliver and his partner was played repeatedly and touched almost every piece of evidence brought forward by the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. Jurors watched videos and detailed frame-by-frame comparisons that showed the officers peacefully responding to a house party before gunshots rang into the night, prompting them to dash from the house up the street. They heard Oliver's partner yell for the car driven by Edward's brother, Vidal Allen. They stopped it as it slowly backed onto the intersecting street, and they saw Oliver fire 5 rounds into the vehicle as it was moving away from the officer. Pretty grim story. I don't know how much commentary we can really offer it.
Well, I think it just kind of emphasizes the problems that police officers face on a daily basis. Especially when the shots ring out and they don't know where it's coming from. What do you do? But you still have dirty cops you have to worry about too.
Yeah, I think there really is such a thing as dirty cops. There really is such a thing as bias against certain, like, racial profiling and stuff like that. And to what extent that's what's going on here, I don't know.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's just, we weren't there. We can't make the judgment. So
yeah, until we get any further word on
information. Yeah.
Okay. Just
God rest the kid's soul, and God bless the policeman.
Right.
And offer condolences to the family of the victim.
Right. So,
I mean, if the police officer here is being charged anyway falsely, then hoping that kind of information would come out. But if he is guilty, then
right,
he deserves to be held to account for his actions. But other than that, we can move on to the next story. Warren Buffett. Who cares about a cake? A cake that Warren Buffett gets. Who cares about this? Why is this news?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Why are so many?
But yet it takes us to an article on stocks. What the heck?
Well, he's stock market king.
Well, I know, but I thought we were going to see his birthday cake, not talk about stocks.
Well, he has.
Hey, on a different note. Did you guys see where California is doing away with bail?
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah. Let me see if I can find that.
Tell us about that.
Well, the gist of it, from what I saw, the gist of it was all nonviolent crime. They will be released on their own recognizance. I can't say the word. Recognizance. Within 6 to 12 hours of being jailed, no bail needed.
So it's now legal to be illegal or something like that? Or
that's what they're saying.
Basically, yep. Yep. I posted a link to the article in our server in broadcasting, and I'll put it in chat for our viewers. But it's an interesting read, and it's very disturbing on the way that California is moving towards a socialist society. And the lack of rule of law that California has.
Yeah, the House had passed it, and then good old was it Jerry Brown?
Yeah, Moonbeam Jerry.
Yeah, he went ahead and put it into law.
It's mind-blowing that the laws that they're passing, they're almost ridiculous. It's like they don't care about people. Do they just let's just do whatever we want?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're thinking.
I don't either.
Are they thinking?
Speaking of thinking,
that might be the problem right there in a nutshell.
Or maybe they just want to cause chaos generally in California.
Yeah.
But, I'm just glad I don't live in California, I guess. And it's wonderful, what do you call it? scenic beauty of it. California's got some great scenery, but the politics pretty much destroys anything good about it. So anyway, what do we got next? Well, I think we should go ahead and look into this other thing, because what I wanted to mention with Dr. Corsi was talking about the school system, and that's hitting close to home for me. I want to address that because, you know, especially at the higher education level, a lot of the theory and the intellectual components of the left's movement. I mean, so the push on this starts with the Menshevism thing and the long, slow march through the institutions. And so they actually, what they think is, I mean, ultimately they're trying to take over the economy, right? But they have, in order to take over the economy, they have to take over the political system. But in order to take over the political system, you have to take over the cultural environment. And that's, I mean, that is Hollywood, it is mainstream media, but even deeper than that, it's education. They had to take over the educational system. And so the Frankfurt School, and that so happens to be where Rothschild family comes from, but the Frankfurt School, after the Nazi Germany
From the
thing,
school or the city?
It's a school.
Well, the Frankfurt School is a school of thought.
No, I know it is, but you said that's where the Rothschilds come from. I was wondering if you were talking about the Frankfurt School per se, or they're from Frankfurt,
I
Germany.
think they're actually from Frankfurt, the city.
I think they are.
But at any rate, I don't remember the exact date, but they kind of exported all their scholars to Columbia University and the New School for Social Research. And this whole thing about critical theory. So Marxists don't always admit that what they're doing is Marxism, and they kind of they use the word critical theory to refer to Marxist critique. And so a lot of them, when you hear it coming out of the mouth of a leftist, when they're talking about critical thinking, they often mean Marxist thinking. You know, there is such a thing as critical thinking, which is independent of that. And that's the kind of thing that I would support, is the ability to think for yourself and analyze the text and sort of, but Frankfurt School and the postmodernism and all that stuff, I mean, it is Marxist primarily, but it's also influenced by Freud and a lot of neo-Freudians. So it's definitely the social research. I mean, the social research is like social psychology and a lot of things that go into propaganda and mind control, all that stuff. So I guess I can put this link into the chat because it's a long article, and it would probably do you good to know the intellectual foundations of leftist America in the academic world. And that filters down. Remember that the primary, secondary teachers that we have teaching our kids are all trained by university level. And so, and who's running that? You know, what's the real agenda at the university level that they're pushing? Basically, that link is going to tell you about how our academic world became corrupted. And I mean, you can really get into the theoretical aspects of this, but it's a combination of psychology and economic theory, and that'll make you get the point. Let's move on. A
combination of what? I think you cut out there a little bit.
The combination of economic and psychological theory.
Something doesn't want you to say that word because you're out again.
Psychological
it's theory? A combination between economics and what?
Psychology.
Psychology.
Magic.
It's interesting because
I watched.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Army Wife.
I had watched. It was a documentary actually on the Corbett Report. What year it came out? It all went back in part of the Rockefeller Foundation and these other inbred bloodlines. Basically, that's what it is. And it started off as a eugenics project. One of the Rockefellers, one of the kids, decided he would population control. And then whenever that didn't when the one of the admirals said, "Well, you just need to reword it." Going into some of the schools and a lot of projects that they pretended were society projects. You know, they all had different names, and but it was basically it's still going on. Of course, the eugenics product, and I mean, they had every brought out of, you know, if it's all in the documents. I mean, even back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, for their realizations, if they didn't think you were smart enough to have kids, they were measuring brain size. I mean, that's just, I seen it and I was like, are you serious? This is part of the, I call it the inbred of eugenics that they feel, and right there with them. This is all part of their creation to depopulate. That's their main focus in life, is to depopulate. Right on board with that, brother. Anything that he could do to help with depopulation, he'll, you know, shove billions at it. So that's something that we could definitely later down the road to try to break that all down. Yeah, that's all these people who just
So I'm gonna,
is Army Wife's voice breaking up for anybody
Yes, it
else?
is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, when it breaks up like that, it's usually
I've got
a bandwidth
buffering
issue.
here again.
Sounded like you were saying some really interesting stuff, and
Yeah, so try to find maybe reset your router or
internet's really.
So I'm going to go ahead and read through this This is actually on the Columbia website, but Department of English and Comparative Literature. They have a sample reading list for the Frankfurt School theorists and their interlocutors. Rationale. This list includes work by figures directly involved with the pre-World War II Institute of Social Research in Frankfurt. So specifically, Theodor Adorno, Max Horkheimer, and Herbert Marcuse, as well as those loosely associated with this institute, those with whom they engaged in critical dialogue, such as Walter Benjamin, Siegfried Kracauer, George Lukács, Ernst Bloch, Bertolt Brecht. While the Frankfurt School represents a fertile encounter of Marxism, philosophy, psychoanalysis, and critical sociology, Marxist sociology, which has continued to influence the practice of cultural criticism and ideology critique. These words critique, they keep using this word critique. It's a Marxist critique. It was no school, no set of doctrines bound these theorists. See, and that's part of their ideology, is to say that they have no ideology. Ridiculous.
Well, I wonder why the feminists don't critique them for not having any women among them.
Well, the feminist movement got taken over. You know, I think that's called that second wave feminism, when the Marxists took over the feminist movement.
Well, in this Zero Hedge article, they talk about that here. They said the social movement in the 1960s, Black power, feminism, gay rights, sexual liberation, gave Marcuse a unique vehicle to release cultural Marxist ideas into the mainstream, railing against all things establishment, quote unquote. The Frankfurt School's ideals caught on like wildfire across American universities.
Yeah, with the feminism thing, they convinced the feminists that gender issues were really just a subset of class issues, and they basically brainwashed the women into thinking that the gender issue was a class issue. So they're conflating different terms. This is a category error. Gender is one thing, class is another thing. They're separate categories of knowledge. They're separate categories of experience and identification. And they are intentionally confusing people. And you got all these, you know, well-intentioned people initially that just suck it up and they go with the flow, and they don't realize that they're being co-opted. And so they just got duped.
Right. Well,
I was just saying that, you know, you notice those are all real hardcore kind of Germanic men. You know, I don't know what link you put into the chat. I can't see it, but I highly recommend Andrew Breitbart's Righteous Indignation. His book. Have any of you read it?
I haven't. No.
He gave one of the most accessible explanations of the Frankfurt School that I've ever read, so I'm recommending it. It's a really interesting book, and his whole book is not about the Frankfurt School, but he talks about it as brain just has is infiltrating our school system, and he talks about how a lot of the guys that Brain just referenced came over because they were getting uncomfortable in Nazi Germany. And first they went to Geneva, Switzerland, then they went to New York, and Columbia University was a haven for them. And then they went to Santa Monica, California. And my theory is that that's how Southern California started to get real screwed up. The Frankfurt School was growing there and then sending its tentacles out throughout the rest of the country. But one of the critiques, to use that word, that the Frankfurt School guys had about Santa Monica was that people just looked too happy. And they didn't like that. The workers shouldn't look so happy. It didn't fit with their Marxist theory. And another of the things that I found interesting that helps me understand it a little bit more too was the Frankfurt School grew in Frankfurt because things weren't happening as Marx said. You know, by Marx's predictions, there should have been a lot more revolts among the workers. You know, and so to compensate for that, they added new theories to the mix and tried to perpetuate.
Put some Freud in there.
yeah. Try to.
And what's that other guy? Jacques Lacan. Got Lacanian analysis.
Oh yeah, Lacan and the Derrida and.
Oh, Derrida.
Did you say Shaka Khan?
Yes.
Chaka
that's
Khan,
exactly
that's
what
who
I
we're talking about. We got to get some of that truck driver talk here to some common sense, bring us back to reality.
That's not truck driver music.
So, okay.
I like breaking it down. Let's just break it down. Deliver something. Get our food on the table, huh?
Who do you have? This is a Zero Hedge link you got here, Jax? Wanted to put.
Would you put?
Yeah, it is. Sorry. Yeah,
it
is. Go ahead.
Sorry, can one of you guys put Righteous Indignation into the?
Yeah, I'll put that up next. I just want to do a quick
chat
thing here
by Andrew Breitbart. If you check it out, have you read that, Bandit or Army Wife?
I haven't. No.
Which one?
Andrew Breitbart's book, Righteous Indignation.
No, I haven't read it.
Yeah, Breitbart, the guy, is going to go down as one of our great heroes, for sure.
He is. I already put the link in the chat.
Cool.
Thank you. Speaking of heart attacks.
Yeah, his was really suspicious.
This looks like an informative article in this Zero Hedge.
It is a really good one, and it's a quick rundown of exactly what it is and what their goals are. And I would highly recommend reading it. You know, they've got a book called Polymorphous Perversity, a concept crafted by Sigmund Freud, and it posed the idea of sexual pleasure outside I think I already read this. Outside the traditional norms, and you know that eros and civilization would be very influential in shaping the sexual revolution in the 1960s. Right. So,
and Freud had a theory called The Future of Illusion. That's a book that he wrote on the nature of religious belief. He thought it was an entire delusion, and basically it's a neurosis, according to Freud. Any sort of religious belief is a neurosis. So that's called the future of an illusion, and we need to know our enemy. If you want to really get serious about fighting the deep state, You got to think.
Right.
You got to understand how they think, and so Marxist theory. You know, these names like Antonio Gramsci and George Lukács, or Lukács. I don't know how to say it. I'm American. I speak American, but anyway. So I think we're pretty much covered the education stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, we can move out of all that stuff.
Did you see Dr. Corsi's tweet on a textbook that's being put out, I think, in Oregon? Did you see that today?
Yeah, he talked about that a little bit in his show, and that was a very disturbing book. I looked that up briefly, in fact. See if I can find that again.
Yeah, it was teaching students about Che Guevara, and well, I think people should know about these people, but they should be critiqued.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, that they like to,
and Black Lives Matter, and sorry, Brain, I didn't mean to interrupt.
They offer that, what they call a deconstruction of almost everything, but the thing is that their ideology is an ideology, despite that they say that it's not. It is an ideology, and there's a lot of beliefs in their system that need to be, you know, critiqued or deconstructed. We take on all this, and basically, whereas you think about a certain point of view as having like a web of beliefs, there's a certain sort of self-supporting assumptions that go into play. You know, the mutually supporting points of propositions, I guess, and so that's how you create this ideology, and it's a lens through which you see the world. That's what an ideology is. You're interpreting the world in a certain way.
There's Wittgenstein.
Well, and Heidegger, but yeah.
This book is disturbing because this is, you know, you do a search for this booklet, which is called "Planning to Change the World," and it comes up on websites with names like Justice Plan Book, rethinkingschools.org, Internet Society. I mean, this is some really, and on Justice Plan Book, it says planning to change the world is an incredible resource that gives teachers and students a set of tools in which to develop the critical consciousness necessary to interrogate the world as it is and to imagine the possibilities of a better one. It's a con job.
Well, even that word too, interrogation, and that interrogation is part of what they view this Marxist critique is. You're interrogating the enemy, so they put you under the light like you're a criminal, and they're interrogating you.
The title sounds like a threat. Planning to change the world.
Right. Well, it says on another one of the websites that it's produced the Education for Liberation Network, and is published in the partnership with Rethinking Schools.
That's Soros.
It's Oh, it screams Soros.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I'm thinking we should just have fun for the rest of the time here. We've had enough of our serious. Let's move into.
Yeah, are we going to get back to common sense and
common sense? But now we got our music playing. Enough of the news. Let's just have fun for a couple minutes.
I put a couple of links into the chat box over there on the eugenics things I was talking about with the Corbett report.
Thank you.
It's
I'll
really
check it out later.
Really great documentaries.
Ooh, thanks, Army Wife.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Any of our listeners asking any questions?
Yeah, we want to know what you guys think. You guys have any questions for us? We want to hear what you guys are thinking.
Any questions for the panel? The secret squirrels? We're here to corrupt your minds.
You can find us at FEMA Area 4. Be sure to add a package of ramen with any correspondence.
You're very clever, Jax. You're also very nice, Jax. You laugh at Brain's jokes.
You have to be very nice to laugh at my jokes.
Oh, I think Brain's funny. They're talking about North Korea, and I think X is right about that. The United States came out today, the State Department, and has deferred, I guess, the allowing of Americans into North Korea for another year. Yeah. Oh, 0 Hour 1. Oh, I like 0 Hour 1.
No.
Why?
0 Hour 1 is bad news.
He's got some good stuff.
No.
Yes, sir.
Floppy thinker.
So someone on here, Inayat, is asking about the Burning Man Festival. Have y'all heard anything about that?
Sure.
Oh, yes. Have you guys?
No, I haven't. What's up with that?
It's some kind of event that happens in Nevada, and maybe I don't know if this is all that happens, but supposedly there are like rooms for orgies, and but I think it came into the news recently because the Me Too movement placed its influence in the Burning Man festival to make sure that even though sex was free, it still had to be consensual. Something like that. It's just a real odd. And I guess a lot of the Silicon Valley people attend.
Of course.
Okay.
So I wish I knew more, but anybody else know anything about that?
Well, the rituals are obviously tied to some kind of pagan thing. I don't know what, but I mean, some giant.
It's very artsy fartsy. I mean, it's seriously, you have a lot of I don't even know how you'd call it. Almost a hippie culture.
Yeah, it's hard to describe.
It is. They wear the craziest clothes, and they ride around on homemade bicycles, and it's an odd. It's like debauchery out in the desert.
Yeah, I even think describing it as what did you describe it as the hippie thing? What was that hippie thing out? The original hippie then out east.
Woodstock.
Yeah, that it even makes Woodstock look just very tame.
Yes, burning a 100-foot-tall wicker man and chanting and having public sex. That's what they do. You know, just a typical weekend, I guess.
Well, considering we were just talking about the Frankfurt School and how that the Marxist idea of perverting society with sexual mores, I guess that fits right in with the Marxist thinking. Just saying.
Oil inbred.
Yeah, this is getting depressing. I think it's time for us to sign off. What do you think? This is
Sounds good.
I don't want to think about this stuff anymore. Hope you guys have a good evening. Things could get better than talking about the perversions in the desert. It's not particularly appealing, frankly. So, what do you guys think?
Sounds good.
What did we talk about today? Yeah, I have a very short attention. We talked about stuff.
Well, I'm lucky I can remember my name on most today, so.
Yeah, Palin, Hubert, McCain, and the Frankfurt School. That was our subject tonight. Is there any big picture in that? Not that it's all deep state stuff. Yeah, deep state stuff. Stuff like that.
Stuff.
Okay, I'm Brainstorm. Anybody else want to say that?
I'm Bandit. Thanks for having me.
Hey, everybody, wave goodbye.
Bye-bye.